We're doing this across the pond. My name's Norris, and I'm a leadership coach and consultant with Change Innovators. And
I am Dawna Atamanchuk, and I'm a leadership coach and leadership coach and consultant as well with Change Innovators.
Yeah. So not only are we in different continents, we're in different time zones, which is always good fun when we talk about abundance. So we chose a topic today, abundance, as a topic for leadership development and coaching. And Dawna, I felt that the word abundance comes up more often in our work. What do you think?
I think you're catching me off guard at 6 a.m. for those of you who know it's in Winnipeg.
You did it to me last time.
Yes, I know. So I think the concept of abundance is something that we can bring into coaching conversations. I'm not always sure if people start in those spaces. Usually, when people sit down, it's not that they can't move to that space of abundance, but sometimes they sit down with us because they're in that space of trying to find that abundance. They know that they have it. They know they have it as a person. They know they have it as resources. They have felt it, lived it, been it before. But even for myself, sometimes it's that theory of when I feel like I'm a lack of abundance, how come? And what do I need to do to move forward, right? So that space that space is how I often see how it comes up.
Yeah. And I think I'm just listening to you there, and apologies for catching you off guard. I know it's
no, you didn't catch me off guard. I knew what we were doing.
What I found really interesting about what you just said is that people know that they have it. And when we talk about knowing, do you think that that's beyond just a kind of in your head knowing? It's something, yeah.
I do. I think it's a feeling you get. You feel more abundant. You feel like when you're walking through spaces that the abundance is just there. Like those things they just naturally come to you. Like it's almost like a good magnet in a way sometimes, right? Just catches the abundance. You're catching things that you weren't expecting. Your body feels it.
Yeah. Because the other thing that often happens with me in conversation with friends is there's a lot of negative things that get streamed through, and I think that part of the challenge with this is where you focus your attention, and if you focus your attention on things that the world that is, in my view, a very abundant world. There's a lot happening which is very positively affecting the world. Then you can see it through a very, very different lens. It's partly a perspective taking.
So just saying that, though, I think it's one of the things that we do talk about in our program is that space that we can all go into that space where we don't feel like we have abundance, and that's a natural thing. And the question I would just have is to be able to notice that that's what you are feeling, experiencing, like literally, consciously and unconsciously in your body and inside your body, and you're feeling that. And then you can just ask yourself some really good questions, because it's a natural thing. We can be a very abundant person, and yet we can have moments or longer moments where maybe we don't feel that way, and that's an acceptable. It's okay. That's all.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people talk about the external world. I don't think I'm necessarily talking about that. I'm partly talking about the internal world here. That you meet people that, irrespective of their circumstances, they are just filled with positivity. And abundance. Yeah. So we got a couple of questions, I suppose, to pop in. That was one. What does abundance mean to you? It's not necessarily aimed at you, Dawna. It's just that it was something to help us reflect. And I suppose one of the reasons why we picked the topic is because we use both positive psychology and increasingly we're reflecting on artificial intelligence and the potential broader implications of artificial intelligence in our work in terms of leadership development, preparing people not just for the immediate changes, but trying to kind of push the boundaries a little bit more. I think, that was what was behind the subject matter today. So I suppose what I could do is say, well, okay, so here's a question. In the context of abundance, why do we feel, or maybe we don't, that positive psychology is important to us in the work that we do?
How about this time you start?
Okay, I'll start. One of the things that I really like about the positive psychology movement is linked to, you know, one of the things that I fundamentally feel about coaching, and that coaching isn't about, it can be, but it isn't intentionally about wallowing in things. It's about building bridges. Simon Weston, a very famous coach, researcher in the UK, talked about coaching as being something that builds the bridge between the kind of wounded self and the celebrated self. And one of the things I like about that is that the celebrated self is not a destination, it's an intention. It's kind of a staging post, really. So, you know, you set your intention in a direction. And then when we talk about Richard Davidson and we use some of Sean Akers' work, there's a tangible research that shows that positivity it brings abundance into our lives. So just the act, for example, of doing something kind, being kind, doing something constructive and positive for another person, you know, a kind of act of kindness is scientifically proven to be good for us.
Mm-hmm. And it's even when we get that opportunity to do that, right? You know what I mean? Like when you get that opportunity to practice that space of kindness or positivity towards another person, what does it do to your fuel tank for the rest of the day?
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
do you know my girlfriend says because my dog just loves her, and she says I think because when we go for walks, your dog just loves me. She says I actually am now going and volunteering and walking dogs other places. You know, she
Right.
says I think that's why I have the space and want. You know, that
Mm-hmm.
bridge, that gap. You know, that bridge you talk about. That
Yeah.
it's an interesting dynamic because she's the one who mentioned it one day, and I'm like, that could be very true, right? It's that space that we're talking about. That's what we feel or what we're given. That positivity that we start to feel that then we can also give to other people, and that's part of that abundance concept of an internal, not really a possession or a thing, right?
Yeah. We've got somebody's tuned in and we have a comment, so I know we
Excellent.
can't get excited. So Liz has written, abundance means that we can see the opportunity rather than be resigned to the constraints.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, that really resonates with me on different things that I've tried to do at work or in my personal life, right? Where maybe the um, that bridge is unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that positive, that psychology of positivity about how could we make it work? You know, how could we make it work? That positive psychology of being able to visualize, you know, being there and doing that, and visualize yourself making choices you need to make to get to that bridge. You know, that bridge is both tangible choices and conscious and unconscious choices to get there.
Mm-hmm. And you know that one of the things that I've been doing recently is working with you and Yvonne on one of the programs that we run, which is called Creating Positive Energy,
Yes.
and recreating the tree of abundance, and trying to get the imagery right, and as we push that backwards and forwards, you know, as we're trying to build the bridge to the new version of the tree of abundance. And I think I was maybe a little bit inspired by that process because you know, as you are being creative, you know, as I found myself being creative, you know, I was putting something of myself and of the conversations that we were having into the tree, so that when people see the tree, then it's portraying something, you know, it portrays the energy behind what we were talking about. And I think, you know, as we talk about sometimes in our program, happiness is a kind of choice. but it does, but it doesn't always, we don't always feel happy. And we're not talking about a superficial happiness. We're talking about something a bit deeper. It's a lens through which to view the world that can lead, as in the point of our contributor. Thank you very much for that, Liz. That it means we can see opportunity rather than constraint, and therefore it leads to something greater than than we might have contemplated beforehand.
Can I bring a thought to that?
Yeah, please.
So the idea of even is that is that space of like, even if I am in a space where maybe, it's not something I'm keen on doing,
Mm-hmm.
I can still, and I kind of go back and forth between that word happiness and joy.
Mm-hmm.
I can still have that natural joy about something because it is part of building that bridge,
Mm-hmm.
that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that space of when I was training for an endurance event. I on purposely cut the grass, the grass. I have a couple of acres. I pushed the grass by hand instead of riding the riding lawnmower,
Mm-hmm.
because it was part of my training. It was to bring me joy. It was part of that process. And
Mm-hmm.
it actually did bring me a space of positivity be in that, right? So that positive space of the lens that we look at it. But even when we're doing things that maybe are not ideal, not things we always want to be doing, positive psychology is important because it actually allows us to look at and say this activity is part of something for something greater. It's not the end goal, but just an overall goal of where you want to be.
Mm.
And I think sometimes we forget that because we want immediate gratification, or we think everything we should do towards a project is going to be fun, but you can be happy in doing things that maybe you're not that keen on all the time.
Mm. Mm. And in not to kind of get too academic-y about it, but some of the work, some of the research that underpins our work was undertaken by Martin Seligman. He's very famous in the field of positive psychology, and not just he, but he often talks about flow. Flow wasn't the concept wasn't invented by him, but his idea is, and the kind of eudaimonic way of being, kind of almost blissful. And when I hear you speaking, it's that sometimes we think coaching can be quite difficult, or we're working on problems, but coaching, where people start is kind of rarely the work that they do. If you understand what I mean, they may have an idea of what they want to get out of a coaching arrangement, but the journey and the mowing of the grass, in the way that you put it, there is an opportunity to enjoy and find abundance in the work, as opposed to just thinking about abundance as the outcome, the destination.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in order to create something new, in order to do something different, in order to just have a different picture, have different tools, that theory of positivity and abundance has to be there. I just want to bring up one comment. People often think people come into coaching because there's a problem, but people go into coaching because of opportunities or ideas that they want. They can come from a place of positivity to grow into to continue in a place of positivity.
Mm.
It's an interesting dynamic. People don't always sit down because there's a problem. They sit down because there's an opportunity or something that has fired them of excitement that they are looking to explore as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I just think it's a really important point, and you've made it really well. Shall we have a little chat about AI as well, because that's come into our world. Should I kick it off, or do you want to kick it off?
I know this is Lee. Those of you who are following him on LinkedIn, I know he loves this. You should see all the things I get every day from Lee on LinkedIn. On AI, it keeps me very up to date, and I absolutely love it. So I hope he continues to do. I want to give him some positive reinforcement how much I enjoy it, and that's part of actually a little bit about abundance. Is really appreciating the people around us who bring that abundance to us. Sometimes it's a joy they bring in, or it's or in this situation, it can be of resources and information because they're providing you with an abundance of learning opportunities. So think about when we talk about positive, go back to positive psychology for a moment. Positive psychology is about being understanding how to be grateful and having gratitude. And that is actually in a mindful course I'm taking right now. Every day we need to come up with 10 things we're grateful for. You know, that gratitude, just a friendly reminder of just thinking of how we can practice abundance and appreciate the people who bring abundance into our life. So, but we can go back to AI. So AI and abundance. Um, this is fascinating. The more and more I go around, last night I was at an event and people were talking about how they don't expect it to change their job. I don't know if I need to learn it. And it's an interesting thing because I have to sit back and say, it's okay. That's their position on it. And my position on it's very different. I see it very differently. So my theory of abundance on it is really about the psychology about is how can I be using it? How can I be working with it based on the positive psychology in a positive way? And to how do I bring AI to be in the flow versus trying to resist it?
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's a really interesting thought. You got me there because I make a lot of use of AI as a tool. And when I think about abundance, one of the things that I think about with AI in the way that I'm using it at the moment is it just knows so much. Its knowledge is filled with abundance, and when I have something to do, I I really treat the tools as like an equal partner for me. There's an equality in what I'm doing, a bit like in a coaching arrangement. You know, it's a partnership rather than anything else. So, you know, I feel like I get better use of it as a result of doing that. You know, I don't talk about AI as it. I talk about. I don't like to use the term it when I talk about AI. I like to log in, and if I'm using Gemini, for example, I'll say, "Good morning, Gemini. Can you call me Lee today?" And he goes, "Oh, hi," you know, because they forget they're not allowed to remember at the moment, which is also quite interesting. So for me, there is an element of abundance in the knowledge and how helpful the AI. And you know, I struggle a little bit, if I'm honest with you, Dawna, with the word artificial even these days, because it just feels like intelligence. You know, it's very, very clever.
Because it functions the same way as other things that we've known that have been acceptable, right? Like Google search, you know, you go Google, whatever browser you want, like whatever you want to use, right? But it's that space of we've been doing these functions, and it's takes us somewhere where then we still have to figure out which aisle in the grocery store we want to go to. Whereas this new tool, and it's not new, this tool that we now have, it's newer. It then gives us more of a direction, right, based on those prompts. But we have to be open to its helpfulness. We have to be open to its ideas. Just like when we're sitting in a meeting, we need to be open. We don't have to be, but I find it's beneficial to be more open. Even if I start off a little stubborn, I still need to be open to those ideas that are coming, right? And so we've got this tool, we've got a newer tool, and it can be great, but if we're not open to it, if I don't have a theory of abundance, but I have a theory of the other side of that coin, and I'll let you label that for those here. But I feel like I need to be open to it. I need to explore it, I love using it for making posters. I'm not a very creative person, but visually, like drawing. But it's fascinating when I can ask it to do something, and like I can ask me to make a poster for a friend's birthday that I can be specific. They love chocolate cake, they love dogs, they love fishing, they love golf. And I love when I can create something with this tool that I feel so personal. And then when I share it with someone, I actually versus going and giving like maybe a clip art thing that I've just copied off of something, right? That
Yeah.
ability to actually feel like I've contributed to the
Mm,
process of what's been created versus
mm,
just copying something, which
mm. Yeah.
is a different way of looking at it is
Yeah.
being like, I feel like I'm more involved.
Yeah. And you know, I know I talked about Gemini, and you know, Microsoft decided to call their product their Copilot, right?
Hmm.
And what you're describing feels like that. We're in that phase of the Copilot. We're
Yes.
sharing things. We've had another comment that's come in as well, which says perhaps AI could appreciate abundance by accepting the knowledge from human beings into its collective, and then by channeling that knowledge to others, it shares the possibilities without prejudice or judgment to the curious. Now,
Hmm.
for me, that's a lovely way of putting it, and I think that's the ambition for me. When I listen, and we do work with Mo, well, we used Mo Gaudat's work, and he's one of the videos I shared with you today. But that's, I think, sums up his vision, is that if we want a world where abundance and human flourishing can happen, then he talks very strongly about love and the need to use compassion in the way that we use the products, because actually, they are learning from us all of the time, and we are learning from them all of the time. So if we use them in a non-judgmental way, and as I know often like to talk about, with curiosity, then we're developing tools that will understand more about that, because they are kind of built around the way that the human brain has developed. So they're actually, we're not telling them what to do anymore. We're asking them to find things out, and they're working stuff out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I that is one of the things that from Mo's work that I really have taken away, and I think you have from our conversations too, Lee, but I'll let you confirm that is I do really ponder what it is that I'm putting in and what I'm searching.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are sitting with people talking about AI, if I try and push something on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, then I'm not really coming from a place of abundance, but I might come from a place of fear because they're not on board. So
Mm-hmm.
just a theory of thinking when we're sitting with people and we start pushing our ideas the way things have been, is that because I'm coming from a place of fear that what I want may not happen?
Mm-hmm.
Just a conversation around when we're sitting with people that hold very different thought processes. Like they're sitting there with AI, they're holding on to AI differently than maybe you and I, or the individual who asked that question, right? They're sitting there differently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and how can we bring a lens of positive psychology to that?
Mm. How can we bring one of the things that I noticed in the recent video that I shared with Mo Gaudat talking, is that he's developing this thing called Pocket Mo, if you
No?
heard about it. And so he's a fairly prolific writer, and he's often makes podcasts. And one of the ideas with the AI tools is that they not only can they generate these wonderful images, but they can also generate videos. So the idea of Pocket Mo is that he's going to train the AI with inputs from him, so watching him do the things he does, also with his books and his ideas, and then creates an avatar which is actually him. You can't tell the difference. You can interact with, and you can have conversations with Pocket Mo instead of Mo. Yeah. Now, once you've recreated yourself in that way, and then people can start having conversations with you as if you were actually there having a conversation on a one-to-one basis, that feels quite abundant to me. But it also, at one level, could feel quite frightening. But bearing in mind that what Mo's doing is he's saying, right, so I've done that, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk with me as if I'm actually there, because that, in reality, I kind of am in one form of reality. And then I'm going to go over here and do some really other interesting stuff with my life. And then maybe I'll program that into Pocket Mo as well. But the abundance in that is that you're giving more of yourself, and you're creating the space for you to go and do the things that you love. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. That's like I'm ping ponging all over with that one. I can go back and forth about as quickly as my fast brain can move with that one. So It's a dynamic concept because, you know, you look at it, can make it more inclusive because everybody has a chance to talk to him versus only a select few who maybe are, um, I mean, this might not be his language, but you know, in his circle or in his
Mhm,
space. I prefer
mhm.
space. So yeah, it's a dynamic one. I think I need to ponder that a bit more. And
I know, I know. These the problem is with these things is that they are happening every day, and you know we're having to kind of
but isn't
reflect.
that part of what we're talking about though? Is that we don't need to have a definitive answer because we haven't actually really tried it enough to know. Like I don't know. Um, maybe I'm not even aware of how many things in my life right now are replicated of that pocket
Yeah,
mode that are even in my life today, right?
yeah, yeah.
um Maybe the fact that I can ask what date and time it is to my upstairs when I walk in the room, maybe I already have a pocket mo and I just haven't thought about it. Maybe it's the visual image. But if we
Mm,
come back to this idea of when we hear something new, the idea of positive psychology is how can I just be okay with hearing something new and different, because that's what AI brings to it all the time.
mhm, mhm,
How is it then that I can look at it and accept that there's a little bit of the opposite of abundance potentially in what you're talking about?
mhm,
But from positive psychology, how can I um, hold that space to be okay with that coming?
mhm. Yeah,
Because
and
in the workplace, we're always asked, like, what do you think? What do you think? And I think when we do that to people, they don't know and they get react, say, no, not now, too busy, not like, oh, they
mm,
respond. I'll let you decide how
yeah,
they respond.
yeah,
And what for me, the value of the conversation today is allowing ourselves to be okay to not have an answer. I don't have an answer about a pocket mo right now. I don't have a
no,
real thought on it.
no.
But that ability to be able to create space for us to actually stop
Mhm,
and think of it from a level of abundance versus, and in not just as a thing, but internally feeling about it. And
mhm.
then as a group being able to come back and figure out how we're going to work together.
Yeah, and I think you know what I hear you describing is that sometimes that when people are working, they can't be abundant for each other because they're under pressure. They're doing things. They've got to get tasks completed.
Yeah.
Um, and you reminded me of something funny, which I did the other day because, and whether this is abundance or not, I don't know. But I asked the AI if I was working with, if we could talk as if we were pirates, and so we then did this whole bunch of stuff talking about as if we were pirates and with parrots and R's and all sorts of things that came out in the text. But it was such fun, and and the outcome was just as good because I think at the end I had to say, right, okay, that was brilliant, but can you now help me to translate that back into non-pirate so that I can actually use it in my work? But I wonder, you know, I
But
don't
that's
know.
the idea of adult learning, though. Adult learning, I mean, there's lots of different theories. I'm not going to say there's one, but one concept that comes to when we want people to actually move into new information, reflect on it, is take them bigger, take them higher, take them
Right.
away from the activity, then come back down. So your
Yeah.
pirate activity is
Mm,
taking people out of it,
mm,
right? Taking them out of this space, going up and
yep.
around, like looking at it,
Yep.
like not even realizing they're looking at this concept,
Yep.
and then bringing us to a, not down, but bringing us then to a space where we can actually start to talk about it every day. And that's actually a real basic um,
Mm,
of adult learning. So
mm,
what's wrong with that, right? We do it every day. We don't
yeah.
just laugh about it and have fun. And positive psychology talks about the importance of having fun.
Having fun. Yeah.
So it's
And
awesome. I love your
when
idea.
when you're playing, you know that when you're playful and you put yourself into the mode of playing, nothing can go wrong. Do you know what I mean by that? It's a
Mhm, I
game.
do. Yep.
And so it doesn't really matter. But you know, you're quite right. You know, the creativity in the process has been was really helpful. Um, we've done nearly half an hour. Can you believe it?
I
Um,
know. I always love these. We we hope the individuals who are on today have enjoyed it as well. We do just like to honor the 30-minute time slot. Lee and I could go on all day, so we have, it's actually our own time limit for ourselves. Lee, any final thoughts? And I really love the fact you brought this topic to us today. I'll let
yeah.
you close.
I just feel like saying R. I'll see you next
Arr.
time.